Good afternoon and welcome to the Federal Executive Forum celebrating 18 years of profiling excellence in government IT mission programs. I'm Luke McCormack, and during today's show, we will discuss progress and best practices with customer experience programs and strategies in the federal government. With me on today's show are Dana Chisnell, Executive Director, Customer Experience, Department of Homeland Security; Todd Brinson, Deputy Chief Information Officer, Department of Energy; John Boerstler, Chief Experience Officer, Department of Veterans Affairs; Emilio Escobar, Chief Information Security Officer at Datadog; David Santiago, Head of Industry Public Sector, Cloud Document, Adobe; and Stefan Sopko, Managing Client Partner, CX, Digital Transformation, and AI at Verizon. Well, the executive order got signed out of the White House a couple of years ago, and we are off and running full steam ahead. We're going to start with you, Dana, over at DHS. By the way, first of all, congratulations on the appointment.
Thank you.
Certainly deservingly, and I'm sure you're up for that task. CIO Heisen often talks about the extensive amount of citizens that are reaching, and non-citizens that are reaching out to the Department of Homeland Security. And also I think about the wide swath of goods and services that you all perform there. Daunting task. I know you're up for it. Congratulations. Give us a state on CX.
Well, as you know, Luke, first, thank you for having me on the show. But as you know, the Department of Homeland Security is a huge agency. We have 8 operating component agencies that cover a lot of ground, a lot of different kinds of customers, from travelers and businesses in trade and export and import to law enforcement to people applying for immigration benefits. We have about 1 billion touch points with the public every year. This is a huge undertaking to improve every one of those touch points. So we've managed to do quite a lot, even though we only just formalized the office leading up to this point. So one of the biggest accomplishments, I think, is that we ran a burden reduction initiative at CIO Heisen's urging. OMB estimates that the department puts about 190 million burden hours on the public through forms or through data collections. Last year, we eliminated 20 million of those burden hours working with PRA officers and programs across the department. This is a huge undertaking. It took, probably hundreds of people working on various user experience efforts, as well as policy and process improvements. And we're really proud that while the challenge was eliminating 20 million hours, we actually exceeded that and reached about 21.5 million hours. So that's thing one. Thing two is we did stand up and formalize a CX office, the Customer Experience Directorate.
Bravo.
In OCIO. And while that is a beautiful institutionalizing step, we have been working on customer experience efforts since CIO Heisen landed at the department. But now that we're formalized, this gives us billets and budget and authority that we didn't necessarily have before, including authority to direct the components to stand up their own offices or capabilities over the next year. We're so excited about that, and that work is underway now. In addition, we've managed to pull together really beautiful resources on a public website at dhs.gov/CX that we use ourselves, but also is for building capacity and capabilities across the department for anybody who wants to do CX work or who is just CX curious.
Fantastic. And you brought up a couple of good points. One, you really need to ingrain this capability into all the operating components. And it's not all about technology. Sometimes there's policy changes, lots of different things that can enhance the customer experience. So we appreciate that. Todd, how about at Department of Energy? A lot of moving parts going on over there, a lot of action at the Department of Energy with this explosion of electrification going on across the country. Tell us about what's going on in regards to customer experience.
Thank you. And let me echo Dana's sentiment that I appreciate you guys' offer, extending this to me. I'm excited to be a part of this.
Our pleasure.
It sounds like Dana's one step ahead of us in the playbook. It's going to sound rudimentary, but it's a huge first step. Simply acknowledging the importance of customer experience in the department, understanding the ties that it has to everything that we do, and simply including this as one of the 5 goals in the DOE OCIO strategic plan that was just released in October. I think Dana hit on this point. So we currently have customer relationship management processes in place. I've been doing that for a long time. We're super responsive when it comes to addressing customer complaints and support requests for existing services. However, that doesn't mean that we understand our customers' lines of business, that we're delivering services that are of value. Customer experience has a much larger scope than customer relationship management. And we're early in that journey, but we're excited to mature in the space.
You know, you used a good word, journey, right? By the time they are calling in to complain, air quotes there, they went on a journey and probably wasn't pleasant. So that experience really important there. And again, technology not always the answer. John, I know there's a tremendous amount of work going on over there to serve our veterans, and we really do appreciate them. Looking forward to hearing sort of the top line and some specific examples further down in the show on what's happening at Veterans Affairs in respect to the customer experience journey.
Yeah, thanks so much, Luke, and it's great to be on with all of you. We've been at this for about 8 years, and in that time, we've made a tremendous amount of progress. Starting with our first journey map, talking about the journey in 2015, and then really kind of co-designing with the administrations and staff offices that compose VA that serve our millions and millions of veterans and their families over those intervening 8 years. And we started measuring trust, which is kind of like our net promoter score in 2016. We got a 5%, which is not a great grade. You know, it's more like my grades in high school and college for sure. Now 79%, which is tremendous, you know, in terms of where we've been and where we're going. Our aspirationally, we want to be at 90% because our veterans deserve nothing less than an A. But we're going to get there, I think, over the next few years. What we're doing and like thinking about all the 70 different journey maps that we've done for each of our business lines and the 175 different surveys that now measure that experience on a consistent basis for each individual touch point that we have with our customers. We're thinking about how to really improve our customer acquisition funnel because only about half of the veteran population use VA. And so we're thinking more specifically about how we might design for the Gen Z and millennial types of veterans because 200,000 young men and women get out of the military every year. We have this evergreen population of customers, but we're only capturing about half. So how can we use our CX journey, our design and measurement tools to really acquire them, retain them, and ensure that they have a world-class experience?
Fantastic. And we really do appreciate all the activity going on over there and interesting stats that you're bringing forward there. So looking forward to hearing more about that. Emilio, Datadog. I think about Datadog and say, wait a minute, how does that fit with customer experience? But of course it does. Tell us what's the state of the state there and how the CISO stitches into this activity.
Yeah, no, certainly. And first of all, thank you for having me and having us being a part of it. And sometimes I feel like my job is a lot easier, and I commend my esteemed panelists from the public sector taking on this journey. And as a citizen who takes part of these services, I definitely thank you for putting a focus on CX. So the agencies that we work with are benefiting, right, when it talks about CX and observability, and a few things is, well, first of all, recognizing that digital experience monitoring is a part of CX, right? It's like, how do you actually understand the customer experience? And we talked about that journey. When you go to a website, when you have to go and finish a transaction online, how does that look like? And being able to see end-to-end what that transaction is and what that experience is critical. That's some of the values that we're seeing our agency partners understand. But then on top of that, understanding their entire digital ecosystem and delivery chain. How do you know when something is broken? When do you need to respond? And you address an important component where it's not just technology, there's an element of policy and culture internally that goes as part of CX as well. So how do you actually get the teams who are responsible for all of this working together and understanding exactly what are the pain points that the customers are seeing and how to best address them? And we're super excited about seeing the progress being made there and the focus of this executive order that everyone has is obviously running at 100 miles an hour now to go deliver on, that is focusing on that customer experience part that everyone could benefit from. So we're definitely super excited about this, and we're seeing huge improvements and progress already with the agencies that we work with. And how does a CISO play with it? Well, as a CISO who also owns IT for a company of thousands of people, I think customer experience is something that I think of every day. But I believe there is an element of security as well when it comes to customer experience, because the more united this culture and the work behind that happens to making a good customer experience is done, I believe it streamlines the ability to detect and respond to anything on the security side, because it actually sets the tone across the board of understanding what is out there and understanding when something just doesn't look right. But also on the people side, who's what and who's doing what and who works on what and who do I reach out to when something doesn't seem right is a key component of having a good security response program as well.
There's a delicate balance there, and security plays a big role in it, no question about it. David, how about at Adobe? You all are right smack in the middle of enabling that pleasant and elegant customer experience. Give us a state of the state from the top.
Yeah, well, thank you as well for including Adobe on this panel. Broadly speaking, Adobe brings best practices from private sector, from industry to provide intuitive, personalized experiences, customer experiences to government. So we differentiate our products through 4 key areas that I'll very briefly touch on. One is real-time information and service recommendations that intelligently guide citizens through service journeys. Second, unified customer profiles that give a holistic view of attributes and behavior across government agencies and their various communication channels. Third, we provide paperless experiences. Adobe got its start in PDF, but we provide those experiences through back office operations, document automation workflows. And we also have patented data privacy and governance tools to enable citizens to control their data and for government to have a secure and actionable way to have a view of appropriate customer information. And briefly, just some customer stories to highlight, and we can elaborate a little bit more on this during the discussion. One is the city of Seattle. The city of Seattle's attorney's office went digital, leveraging Adobe technology to facilitate contactless paperwork and to keep the municipal courts running. So they recently were able to eliminate more than 250,000 pieces of paper through this implementation. The Census Bureau, it conducted its first online census, actually leveraging Adobe technology. And according to a GAO report, resulted in $1.4 billion in savings because of the technology. So I'll pause there, but those are just a couple examples of some of the work that we're doing.
Lots of great use cases, and we really do appreciate all the work that Adobe is doing to sort of unlock these capabilities for the enhancing these experiences stuff on. I think about Verizon and I think about customer experience. You all are dealing with tens of millions of customers across the globe. You have a lot of experience in this area. Give us a state of the state top line as to what is happening in regards to Verizon as they move on this customer experience journey.
Thank you, Luke. I appreciate the opportunity to be here for Verizon. And it's great hearing all the great stories from the panelists that are here. Amazing. CX is just a big part of what I do. And just very exciting hearing all the great stories going on here. From Verizon perspective, you're right. I mean, we touch so many different parts of industry. And, you know, I probably just going to focus on a couple things, right, that are kind of going on within an industry. It's interesting. Here we are in 2023, right? And you would think the voice, the channels, right, that different channels folks can use web and different digital channels. Believe it or not, there's various polls that we're taking. 80 to 90% of the constituents that are out there today want to use voice. That's pretty interesting. And I've been in this industry a long, long, long time. So as we started developing strategy around Verizon, how to help our government agencies, we stepped back and said, wait a minute, why don't we understand how to get into voice and help them? And literally, I'm just going to go through one of these various technologies out there, conversational IVR. What has happened in the last 5 years with the ability to think you're having a conversation like you and I are having right now? It's amazing. You almost think you're talking with a person. So we've implemented the conversational IVRs using AI technology at various agencies, and it's just been unbelievable. The technology's ripe. We're just seeing how it's being so impactful across these different agencies. And again, folks want to, they want to talk to somebody. So having that ability where you can almost feel like you're talking to somebody, that's, there's almost like an empathy thing kind of that you can kind of bake into it. It's just unbelievable. So that's, that's one of the things that we're doing. Another one that's very interesting. I'm sure many agencies have long hold times. So we've implemented technologies right to help with those long hold times. People sit on those calls for an hour. It's not a very good experience. They get to the end and, they're not happy probably to begin with because they probably have to call. They're much less happy when they get past that hour call and then have to start going. So we've actually started implementing technologies where we can do callbacks. Again, unbelievable success that we've had and we've seen across different agencies. And, it's just exciting to see the agencies out there grabbing onto these. And, again, it's helping with their net promoter scores. We're just seeing a huge adoption rates across those two different types of technologies.
Sure. At the end of the day, people want to talk to people, right? I mean, that's human nature, and it's something that I think we've all learned as we have all been on this journey trying to enhance these capabilities. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We are talking about customer experience. We're going to get into some specific examples. And Todd, I'd like to start with you at Department of Energy. If you could highlight a specific example program, if you will, that you'd like to share with the listening audience about the journey you all are having on customer experience.
Because I said in my previous answer to the first question, we're early in that journey. So we're in the first steps of starting up that formalized program. However, we do have or did undergo an initiative specific to customer experience. And so I'm probably not enlightening any of us on this call when I say the customer experience has 3 components: discovery, engagement, and delivery. We kept those in mind, undergoing this initiative and focusing with our cloud customers that are in the cloud. About 5 years ago, much like many of the federal government, there's a move to get out of on-premises data centers and into the cloud. And part of that is evangelizing all the great things that come with cloud. Fortunately or unfortunately, we took a deliberate strategy to leverage lift and shift methodology to get into the cloud, to not have to deal with lifecycle replacement costs. However, that's successful in that we had our customers in the cloud. They're not seeing the realized benefits that often come with the cloud or that have been associated with the cloud. So as a service provider, it's easy for us to say, we have this cloud offering, you have applications in it. We've done our part. We're responsible for the infrastructure up to the applications. The customer is responsible for their applications. On the customer side of the house, the responsibilities, because there's a demarcation line between those two things, there was a perception, all right, you are responsible, OCIO, for the infrastructure, but because you don't understand our applications, you don't understand how what's they're doing on the infrastructure side is affecting our applications. And that goes vice versa. If they made changes on their applications from infrastructure side, we don't know if we are supporting it best. So we underwent a discovery with our customers, a couple specific, started to have a common understanding of those roles and responsibilities of both. I think it was just mentioned in the earlier question, the level of trust there that came out of that was exponential, and it reaped a lot of benefits downstream. So we learned, I say we, it's both service provider and customer. As a part of this, again, journey, we both learned a lot. And out of that, it allowed us to co-create optimization plans for the applications and the infrastructure side that support those applications to provide benefits in the cloud going forward.
Excellent example there, and important to be highlighting that while there's a lot of customers out there external, there's also hundreds of thousands, millions of internal customers that you're also addressing as well. So interesting story, fascinating. Thank you for sharing that with us. Emilio, I'm going to go over to you at Datadog. You all are striped across a lot of different agencies, a lot of different companies. Give us an example of a program you'd like to highlight where you've been working with one of these organizations to perhaps enhance our customer experience.
Certainly. So we work with a federal agency that's helps people before, during, and after emergencies. And just like we're probably going to hear from the rest of the panelists, they were hitting some limits with their current mainframe infrastructure where the demand was too high and they all needed to move to the cloud. But moving to the cloud and shifting workloads to the cloud and resources to the cloud doesn't mean that emergencies don't happen in the meantime. So they needed to guarantee that there was an uptime during the entire time. So we've been able to help them not only to be able to move all these services to the cloud, which I believe is about over 800,000 containers that they now have in the cloud, but maintain a 99% availability. But now with the end-to-end visibility, they're now able to resolve incidents, whereas before it used to take them 30 days to resolve an incident. Now they're down to like hours and sometimes even minutes when something bad does happen. But going back to the element that we discussed in the prior question on the culture, now you have all these IT, engineering, security teams working together because they're all seeing the same data and working off the same data. So it's been really exciting to see that modernization happening for an agency that has such a high demand, but also provides such a critical service to our citizens in the most dire times when they're going through an emergency as well. So I'm happy to see that transformation and how technology can actually have a human impact at the end of the day, when sometimes we think about it just as a technology, like we said, but there's actually that human element at the end that sometimes goes forgotten. So we're really excited about that one example with this agency.
Appreciate highlighting that. Dana, you top line, there's a tremendous swath of customers out there, external, internal. Incredible stats, tens of millions of burden hours. Give us an example. I know you all are doing some very sophisticated things over there. An example of one of these programs you'd like to shine a light on for the listening audience.
Well, one of the advantages of working in customer experience in headquarters is that while our job is around culture change and capacity building, I get to brag about the accomplishments of the agency.
That's your role. So, do it well.
One of them that I'm especially excited about, because I started my federal service with the digital service at U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services in 2014, is that the team at USCIS looked at their call center data. And call center data is really important. Having a call center is really important. This is customer service, right? You need that. That's part of the journey. It's important because you need to be able to address people's issues that you couldn't otherwise anticipate, right? But it's basically reactive. And if you could be proactive, that's on the customer experience end. Hopefully you could keep people off the phone completely. So what USCIS did was look at their call center data, because yes, they were overwhelmed. There was tons of wait time on the phone. So they looked at the top 3 issues that people were calling about. And it turns out that they were pretty mundane, actually. Thing 1 was, can I change my appointment to get my biometrics taken? Because USCIS just sends you a notice of when your appointment is and where it is. Second was changing your address. People move a lot, and many immigration processes take months or years. And we want to make sure that you keep your information up to date with the component. And third is, this is probably the biggest one, actually, what's the status of my case? Because again, sometimes it takes a long time to come through the process. And so when they started looking at these very, very frequent calls, they realized that they could build self-service into their website and make those transactions available for people. They could control their own biometrics appointments scheduling. They could control their own address tracking and keeping that up to date. And they now have enough data on types of cases that they can give a better range of what to expect in terms of when your case will move forward. And so they just launched a couple of these in the last couple of months, and it's so marvelous to see that advance.
That's fantastic. Put a little bit of transparency into the customer's hands, a little bit of control, and the experience goes up tremendously. So I appreciate that. It's a fantastic.
It does, and then the people who are staffing the phones can address much more complex issues and much more challenging things that they're actually trained for doing.
All the energy goes up and up the value chain. I love it. Fantastic example there. So I really do appreciate that. Speaking of call centers, Stefan, would you like to give us an example of some type of program that you'd like to highlight in regards to enhancing the customer experience?
Sure can. Thanks, Luke. We're going to go ahead and just talk about a little deeper dive on conversational IVR. So again, the technologies have matured to a point where you feel like you're having this conversation interaction like we're having right now. And you can literally just ask a question, right? So there's no more pressing 1, pressing 2, pressing 3, or yes, no, with some digits. And we have seen one of the agents we partnered with about 3 years ago has just enhanced this thing to a degree now we're getting into taxpayer information. So we've actually went FedRAMP high, security always first, right? And we've taken all those solutions now up into the cloud. And what's so awesome about this, right, is again, kind of like to Dana's point, right? You take those lower hanging things, transactional, maybe it's FAQs, right? And then you start building from there. And here we are now 3 years later, where we're actually getting into constituents information. So things that are particular to them. So we're able to do even much more complex things. And where you're not pushing buttons and you're just having that conversation, we can do that. And it's transformational. And again, you have to start out small, right? With those simple tasks and then kind of build upon that. And here we are 3 years later, where we're transformation this agency and all the constituents that will be able to use it 24/7, right? You don't have to rely on somebody on the back end, right? That's available, right? And again, we're simplifying processes as well, right? To make those interactions easier. Those are some of the things that we've helped the agency understand. It's not just about implementation of technology. Sometimes you have to change processes.
It's interesting you pointed out low-hanging fruit, and Dana was examining the volume of calls. I just think about the customer hours and the employee hours that have been taken off the table there on both sides to, again, take that energy and resources and push it up the value chain. It's just fantastic to hear this.
Yep.
John, I know you're going to have a fantastic example here. You have many, but we'd love for you to highlight one where you all have really upped the game for the veterans, which we love to hear these stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of along the same lines of Dana's results that she's seen, we tried to push as much self-service online, or in this case that I'm about to talk about is in the palms of our hands of our veterans in a mobile application. So we took the top 20 transactions from VA.gov, like messaging your provider, checking on the status of a disability claim, scheduling your next appointment or finding a location nearest you, and pulled them into a really dynamic new mobile app called VA Health and Benefits, which is performing better than a lot of our private sector counterparts in the banking industry. That really kind of delivers that ability to use biometrics to log in, so you don't actually have to do the two-factor authentication via login.gov every time using your face or using your fingerprint. I use my fingerprint for mine when I'm messaging my provider, and it's really, really driven, I think, a much more exclusive and digital and mobile experience, especially as I mentioned earlier, for those Gen Z and millennial veterans that we're trying to design for, because we know that they don't want to pick up the phone and call. They're going to want to text someone or chat with someone or message with somebody. So it's really exciting to be able to use a lot of these insights to then drive change and drive modernization in these efforts. And our CTO, Charles Worthington, and his amazing team has really driven a lot of that change and modernization with the mobile app.
That's fantastic. And you're absolutely right. Nobody wants a clumsy, complicated experience just trying to log on to an environment to get to the information that they're looking for. So we applaud you all for really focusing your attention on that. David, you all have such tremendous sort of reach out there in regards to your capabilities. Give us an example of a program that you'd like to highlight that we can share with the listening audience here.
Yeah, thank you. So the success story I'd like to highlight is with the Department of Education, their federal student aid program. So the federal student aid program, it's responsible, as most of us know, for managing long-term relationships with borrowers. There's 50 million citizens that they support, and providing $120 billion in aid. And they needed several years ago to transform their customer experience with seamless interactions that serve customers with the right communications at the right time. And those requirements and experiences, they varied based on the types of borrowers and their use cases, whether they were enrolling in auto payment programs or they had income-driven repayment programs for loan forgiveness. So leveraging Adobe technology, we were able to help the Department of Education with increasing the customer assistance and transactions and account management by triggering transactional emails to borrowers. We were able to prompt students to continue the necessary application steps with personalized reminders. We were also able to help reduce system and cost complexity with a single consolidated platform for email, applications, and text that connected borrowers back to the website and their customer relationship management system. And as a result of all of this, we were able to increase engagement working with our partner at the Department of Education and to increase enrollment with a 51% open rate on personalized communications and notifications. So the industry average for education, it varies a little bit depending on the stats you look at, but on average is about 35%. So a significant impact in terms of being able to reach borrowers and to get them to actually open their email. And we had over 500,000 clicks on studentaid.gov, and we've reached over 40 million FSA subscribers through timely automated outbound communication.
I think what's really fun and fantastic is you make these changes, whether it's policy, technology, et cetera, and then you can just watch the metrics, right, go in the right direction. I think it's just really pleasing to see that. We're going to start talking about priorities. Dana, I'm going to start with you. I know you all have a lot of things going on over there. I'm sure Mr. Heisen has given you 1, 2, and 3. Tell us about what your priorities are this year.
CIO Heisen has indeed given us several mandates. He recently issued the IT strategic plan for fiscal 24 through 28. And there are 6 major goals in that document. By the way, it's a beautiful document. It's 12 pages. You can look it up on the internet. It's really accessible and simple and straightforward in its approach. Goal number 4 is improving customer experience and service delivery. And so our plans and priorities for the coming year kick off that strategic move. So first of all, as I mentioned, we've directed the components to establish their own formalized CX functions. We're excited about that. They seem to be doing a great job, and that's underway.
That's a power move.
It is. People often ask us, are you getting resistance to doing that? And in fact, it's not a hot potato in the components. It is, in fact, a source of discussion and collaboration about where to put it, who's going to sponsor it, and how they're going to support it. Super exciting to see that happen. If you'd asked me about this 5 or 6 years ago, I would have never believed that the outcome and the movement is what it is right now. So that's a huge priority for us. Next is transforming critical services. So one of the mandates that we've been given by the CIO is to coordinate, lead, and track cross-agency services. So, for example, looking at the trusted traveler programs like TSA PreCheck and Global Entry. There are similarities, there's some common customer base, and there are efficiencies that we can gain there. So working on that. Next is implementing and expanding compliance on accessibility and usability. You may have seen that OMB recently issued memo M2322 about digital first experiences. This is basically policy implementation guidance for the 21st century idea, which we're super excited about, moving more forms, more services online and ensuring that they're accessible to people with all kinds of abilities, no matter where they are. We are also going to reduce the public burden even further. We are taking on another challenge to eliminate another 10 million burden hours across the department. And then finally, establishing and scaling training and coaching to support culture change and capacity building. We can't hire fast enough, and lots of people are doing this work and they're doing it well, but we can elevate them and improve their skills and train even more people to do it just as part of their job, to understand who their customers are and what their needs are and how to meet those.
Fantastic. And you heard it here. DHS is hiring. All right. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about customer experience, specifically talking about top priorities for this year. David, let's start with you at Adobe. Number one priority that you all are focusing on this year?
Well, with respect to CX, our priority is pretty simple. It's to continue serving our customers, our public sector customers, with intuitive, personalized customer experiences.
Fantastic. And we really do appreciate the laser focus there. John, Department of Veterans, I know you all are doing a tremendous amount of stuff for the veterans, and we certainly appreciate it. Number one priority that you wake up and focus on this year?
Yeah, and like Dana, we published our strategic plan for customer experience, but it's only 2 pages, which we got to design for the Marines out there. Lots of pictures, but we're trying to align to the overall agency's strategic objectives and how customer experience and employee experience can benefit those. But our number one priority is really thinking about new to VA or customer acquisition. Really when we started this journey in 2014, we started in the middle of the veteran journey map, thinking about healthcare and the access crisis that we were in at the time. Now that we've matured over the last 8 years, we want to kind of take it back to the first 4 moments that matter in the veteran journey, really focus on how might we improve the way that veterans interact with VA for the first time when they're transitioning out of the military, and then they file for their disability claim, or they're enrolling in VA healthcare, or they're accessing their education benefits to get into the school to use their GI Bill. So there's all kinds of different things that we can do to use our design and measurement tools to improve that onboarding or new to VA experience.
Interesting. And I know that when you all we all moved into COVID, there was a whole nother sort of journey of expectations and experiences with the VA and the veterans. I know you all did a fantastic job with that. So hats off once again. Stefan, Verizon, #1 priority for you all that you're focusing on regarding customer experience this year.
Thank you. I think it's really kind of 3 things, and I'll go through them real quick. Connecting on demand, 24/7 AI self-service.
Got it.
And simplifying, streamlining, and speeding up interactions once people are actually connected to the contact center.
Laser focused, and we absolutely really do appreciate that. Emilio, Datadog, #1 priority that you all are focusing your attention on and your resources on this year.
Yeah, no, definitely. So we're going to continue helping our public sector customers and partners to not just meet with the government mandates and directives, but also enhancing the functionality of their websites and digital experiences with data-driven decisions. I think that's going to still be our priority for the next year.
A lot of focus in that area. We really do appreciate all the work that all of you are doing and the laser focus. We're going to pump the brakes here a little bit. We're going to step back and we're going to start looking at the future. Stefan, I'm going to start with you. We're going to fast forward 2 to 3 years. What's it going to look like as far as Verizon is concerned, Verizon's interaction with the customers? What's a demand signal? What's sort of out of the petri dish on its way into production? What's a prediction?
Well, I think there's a couple things kind of that we see kind of going on. One, I'll start with where wireline, connected like devices are going. We're going to see everything moving into 5G and into NAS solutions. So network as a service. Everything's going to become wireless. So when we look 2 to 5 years out, we're going to see that changing how we interact from a connection standpoint. The other thing that's kind of interesting, right? Kind of just me kind of putting my little magic hat on, is we hear a lot about empathy, right? But it's usually around business rules. We need to see that move into business data, okay? The data that operates around that particular individual. So I think AI is going to help us get there. I'm seeing little pieces of it starting to kind of rear its head up, but I think in 2 to 5 years, the data itself. So an example, I have to make a payment, but it's better for me to make a payment over 3 different periods. You don't know why I need to do that. You just know that that's what I do. Okay. I think we're going to see that. AI will help us evolve to that. And you'll see the empathy, right? Not only on the process side of it, but the individual data side of it.
We look forward to seeing that type of capability. David, how about at Adobe? You all have a wide swath of technologies out there, a lot of activity. What do you expect to see 2 to 3 years from now?
Yeah, so with respect to public sector, I anticipate seeing a future where we have more of an experience-driven government working to move forward with its various CX and EX goals, where there are measurable gains in trust, web engagement, increased adoption of AI, digital automation tools, and seamless and personalized government experiences to better serve the public.
Really do appreciate that, and we certainly do look forward to it. Emilio, Datadog, fast forward 2 to 3 years. What are you going to be focusing your attention on?
I actually agree with David. And I think one of the things that we heard is that not only there's a new generation that also the government has to serve, the Gen Z, and they expect a lot more personalized experience, more efficient experience, and experience to be accessible, but also more secure as well, where now the demand for security continues to increase. So I agree with the adoption of AI and automation and more data-driven and analytics. We're going to see the public sector drive and deliver these more accessible and personalized experience than we've seen in the past. So I'm excited for it.
Very personalized, and we're really looking forward to that. John, if I'm a freshly minted veteran coming into that sort of ecosystem, you describe some of the things that you're doing today, some of the priorities that you have. We fast forward 2 to 3 years, perhaps several of those are done. Sort of what's that experience going to look like? And then what are you going to have on the horizon beyond that?
Yeah, we're trying to, drive toward a more total experience, more omni-channel experience. We're not taking advantage of all the channels that are available to our customers, and not only to hear from them, but also to conduct service recovery and specifically around social media and improving the way that we use our chatbot and improving the way that you use our virtual agent capabilities. I think with all the lessons being learned with AI, with large language models now, in 2 to 3 years, that will help us make tremendous strides, not only in servicing the customer, but managing the risk, especially with customers who are much more frustrated than others or in a moment of crisis, and how might we be able to wrap our arms around them more proactively. So there's a lot of really interesting things that I think can happen in the next few years. We also need to be while we're thinking about customer experience, and we've come so far in customer experience in the federal government, but we still have a long way to go, as I mentioned. We also have to think about the employee experience, and one truly cannot exist without the other. You can't have a world-class customer experience without a world-class employee experience. So we've managed to come from like the 17th best place to work in the federal government to like number 5. I don't think anyone's ever going to beat NASA, but we're still really trying our hardest to get up there and break into the top 3, but we're measuring that now. We're taking all those tools and experiences on the CX side and then using them to improve the EX side. And I think that's just driving toward that total experience, as I mentioned.
Happy employees equate to happy customers. So I appreciate you focusing your attention on that. Department of Veterans Affairs has how many employees, roughly?
Right now we have over 420,000, but I think we're hiring like DHS is. So to check us out at va.gov and our page, and I think we have enough positions for around 500,000. So we're the second largest in the federal government. Come and work with us.
Wow, appreciate that, Todd. How about at Energy? Let's talk about sort of fast forward. What's it going to look like? You're describing some capabilities with your employee experiences, et cetera. Let's go 2 to 3 years from now. What are we gonna? What's going to be the experience with Energy at that point?
That John had spoke to earlier, and talk about the culture piece of it. So we want to move from perception and think more on perspective. So perception, people are worried about delivery of IT services, the 4 or 5 nines, SLAs. Just as important of service delivery, an aspect is the how. Empathy was mentioned before, and it's how you deliver the services. So if we have folks that are calling up to the service desk and they're getting a cold experience, the service is still delivered, but it's the empathy. It's a forcing function, moving away from perception, meeting SLAs to the perspective, putting yourself in the seat of the customer to understand how they are feeling, and how we can provide a better service by addressing the feeling side of the house. Moving away from models where investments are made in the capabilities based on those perceived pain points. Customer experience should be opening up those bi-directional communications and the channels that were mentioned before, so that we start to take that feedback that we don't have today and incorporate that into service strategy. And then take that a step further. Instead of building out services and having the customer conduct UAT to understand if they meet black or white attributes, it's building in those touch points, thinking through those touch points, through that feedback, and incorporating that through service design strategies as well.
Put yourself in the shoes of the customer, so to speak, and we really do appreciate that. Dana, 2 to 3 years from now, perhaps you'll have the all of these units inside these various operating components up and running, right? Everyone's thinking about customer experience, right? Thinking about that from a journey perspective. Certainly the culture's there. A lot of different experiences. I think about, what's it going to be like when I go through an airport, or, if I'm filing for some kind of a benefit, et cetera, and these design elements getting incorporated into those various experiences. What are you predicting 2 to 3 years from now? What would just warm your heart to see 2 to 3 years from now in regards to this vast ecosystem that you're got your hands on?
I would like to work myself out of a job, but what would really warm my heart is to reach our vision of a human-centered Department of Homeland Security, where everyone in DHS, whenever they have a decision to make, they're automatically asking themselves 2 questions. What's the outcome that we want for the public? And what's the experience that we want them to have? When that happens, that's my success metric right there. Is are folks really thinking about this? And that includes software and services for employees, because as other folks have mentioned here, having great tools to support the mission also trickles out into the public experience as well. And so overall, you should start to see less burden on customers and more efficiencies and processes, more automation and more self-service, so customers can have more access to their own information. That's going to be across channels. That could include AI, but we want to make sure that any use of AI is responsible, so people aren't harmed and there's no biases there. And you should be seeing better accessibility for people with disabilities of all kinds, and better access for people who have been historically marginalized or ignored.
Sure, and that's always a challenge, and we appreciate you focusing your attention on that. Well, we're going to go into a little bit of a turbo round here, if you will. And you all 3 of these agencies, very advanced, very sort of forward thinking on this topic. I want to ask top lesson learned that you all have experienced, no pun intended, at this point. And I want to say that from the standpoint of this listening audience. There's a lot of federal employees that listen to this program. I think it would be fantastic for them to hear, hey, don't forget about this, or make sure you do this, or don't do that. Dana, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think the big one for us is that customer satisfaction scores don't tell the whole story of what the experience is like for internal or external customers. You can pop a survey at a key point in a transaction and people can say, yeah, it was great, or no, it was terrible. But like, why? What was the qualitative experience there? So we're going to be focusing there.
Fantastic. Todd, top lesson learned.
We need to be consistent in our messaging when we're talking about key messaging, key services, that we don't have people that are involved in service delivery at odds with one another, and where your customer is getting one side or the other. We need to be consistent going forward, and opening up the channels, the lines of communication, so that you can have that support that bi-directional communication.
Fantastic. John, take us home. Top lesson learned that you've experienced so far.
Probably guessing that most of our audience are somehow working with the federal government or in the federal government.
Sure.
We're funded in silos, and keep that in mind as we think about how we deliver to the customer. The fact that that we have 3 administrations and 12 staff offices, the fact that DHS has 8 subordinate agencies, the customer doesn't really know that. They just want to get the services that they need. So how might we speak with one voice from each agency and make it so much easier for them to access the benefits or the care or the outputs that they're looking for, and think more laterally across the organization to work hand in hand with one another.
Really do appreciate the wisdom that all of you are sharing here, and thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us for the program. I'd like to thank the sponsors here for supporting this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make this program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience out there that tune in every month. You've been listening to the Federal Executive Forum, part of the Federal News Network.